History remembers Rome. But before Rome ruled the world, there was another empire, a rival, a mirror, a city that grew from exile into power, from power into empire, and from empire into ashes, Carthage. Today its ruins lie silent on the shores of modern Tunisia. But once, its ships ruled the seas, its merchants controlled trade, and its generals shook the foundations of the ancient world. And yet, Carthage was erased, not simply defeated, but annihilated, its memory cursed, its name turned into a warning. Who were the Carthaginians? Why did Rome fear them so much? And what heritage did they leave behind, hidden beneath centuries of silence? This is the full story of the Carthaginian Empire. The story begins in Tyre, a great Phoenician city on the coast of modern Lebanon. The Phoenicians were seafarers, merchants, and colonizers. They sailed beyond sight of land, founding cities across the Mediterranean, Cadiz in Spain, Lixus in Morocco, and eventually Carthage. According to legend, Princess Alyssa, better known as Queen Dido, fled Tyre after her brother murdered her husband. With loyal followers, she sailed west, seeking a new home. She landed on the North African coast, where local Berber kings granted her as much land as she could cover with an ox hide. Cleverly, Dido cut the hide into thin strips, stretching it around a vast hill, Bursa Hill, the heart of Carthage. Whether myth or truth, archaeology confirms that by the 9th century BCE, Carthage was real, a Phoenician outpost that would grow into one of the greatest cities of antiquity. Carthage grew not through conquest, but commerce. The city's harbors became the beating heart of Mediterranean trade. One harbor for commerce, where ships from Africa, Iberia, and the Levant unloaded ivory, gold, tin, and purple dye. Another harbor for war, engineered with circular docks to hold over 200 warships, each ready for action. Carthage became the middleman of the ancient world. From Britain came tin, from West Africa, gold and slaves, from Sardinia and Sicily, grain. This web of trade gave Carthage wealth beyond imagination, but it also gave her enemies. Who were the Carthaginians? They called themselves Punic, descendants of Phoenicians, blended with Berber traditions of North Africa. Their language, Punic, echoed Phoenician roots. Religion bound the city together. Carthage worshipped Baal Hammon, god of fertility, and Tanit, goddess of the moon. Rituals were grand, temples magnificent, but darker tales survive of child sacrifices offered in times of crisis. Archaeologists debate the truth. Some say it was Roman propaganda. Others argue the bones tell no lies. Women in Carthage held unusual influence compared to Rome. Queens and priestesses often shaped political affairs. Agriculture, too, was advanced. Mago of Carthage wrote treatises on farming, so valuable that when Rome destroyed Carthage, they preserved his works in Latin. This was a people of merchants, warriors, farmers, priests, a people bound together by sea, trade, and faith. Carthage's wealth made her both admired and feared. In Sicily, Carthaginian influence clashed with Greek colonies, Syracuse especially. For centuries, wars flared across the island, with Carthage often prevailing but never fully victorious. In Africa, Carthage relied on Numidian allies, fierce horsemen who later would change history. But the Punic army was unusual. Unlike Rome's citizen soldiers, Carthage hired mercenaries, Iberian swordsmen, Numidian cavalry, Gaulish warriors. This diversity made them powerful, but also dangerous, for loyalty could never be bought forever. In 264 BCE, Rome and Carthage clashed. At stake, Sicily. Rome had never built a navy, yet when a Carthaginian shipwreck washed ashore, the Romans copied its design and built a fleet. For 23 years, the First Punic War raged. Battles at sea turned Sicily into a graveyard of ships. At Mylae, Rome struck its first naval victory. At Ecnomus, one of the largest naval battles in history, over 600 ships clashed. In the end, Carthage lost. Sicily became Rome's first overseas province. Carthage was humiliated, but worse was yet to come. Defeat left Carthage bankrupt. Mercenaries, unpaid, revolted. What followed was the Truceless War, one of the bloodiest conflicts of antiquity. Mercenaries crucified commanders, villages were butchered. Carthage responded with equal savagery, slaughtering prisoners by the thousands. This near-death crisis gave rise to a family name that Rome would never forget, the Barcas. Hamilcar Barca crushed the revolt, saving Carthage. But he also planted seeds of vengeance in his young son, Hannibal. Before his father, Hannibal Barca swore an oath of eternal hatred against Rome. He would keep it for life. In 218 BCE, Hannibal marched from Spain with 90,000 men and war elephants. His path over the Pyrenees, across rivers, through the Alps, snow, avalanches, starvation. Thousands died, but Hannibal emerged into Italy with fire in his eyes. At Trebia, at Trasimene, at Cannae, Hannibal destroyed Roman armies. At Cannae, 50,000 Romans died. In a single day, Rome trembled, allies defected. Never again would Rome know such fear. But Hannibal lacked one thing, siege equipment. Rome itself stood, untaken. Rome adapted. The Fabian strategy: delay, avoid battle, starve Hannibal's forces. Meanwhile, Scipio Africanus rose, striking at Carthage's holdings in Spain, then Africa. In 2020 BCE, at Zama, Hannibal and Scipio met face to face. Numidian cavalry betrayed Carthage. Hannibal was defeated. Carthage lived, but under Rome's leash. For 50 years, Carthage obeyed Rome, but prosperity returned, and Rome grew jealous. Cato the Elder ended every speech with, "Carthago delenda est." Carthage must be destroyed. In 1409 BCE, Rome invaded. Carthage resisted with desperate courage. For 3 years, the city held, but in 1406 BCE, Roman legions broke through. Street by street, house by house, they slaughtered. Fire consumed the city. For 17 days, Carthage burned. 50,000 survivors were enslaved. Carthage was erased. Rome had annihilated its greatest rival. And yet, Carthage did not vanish entirely. The Romans rebuilt the city as Roman Carthage, one of their richest provinces. Christianity flourished there centuries later, giving birth to saints and scholars like Augustine of Hippo. The Punic language lingered for centuries. Carthage's agricultural knowledge lived on in Roman texts. The spirit of the Phoenician sailors continued in Mediterranean trade. Today, Tunisia bears the ruins of Carthage. But in every harbor, in every tale of Hannibal, the memory of this empire endures. Rome wrote the history, but Carthage shaped the world. It was a city of merchants and warriors, of gods and generals, a city that rose from exile to empire, and from empire to ashes, yet its story lives on. For heritage is not only what survives in stone, but what endures in memory. This was the Carthaginian Empire, the empire the world tried to forget. Tell us what part of Carthage's story surprised you most. Share your heritage in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories of Africa and the ancient world.